Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Lioness Den. I am so happy that you have decided to join us on today. It's going to be a great day today, guys. I'm just saying it now and I'm declaring it before we even go in that today is a great day. I am excited. We have not been on as much as usual lately, but I'm telling you, today's episode is going to make up for what we may have missed in the past couple of months. Look, we were here last month and we had a great Women's Month session. And today we're going to talk about autism awareness. April is Autism Awareness Month, and it's a month that's dedicated to talking about the subject of autism and dealing with the subject of autism. Now, in our community, the African American community, we really didn't discuss the subject of autism years ago. It was a very kind of quiet subject. And so now it is prevalent in our society today. And we are talking about it the same way we didn't discuss mental health before. We didn't discuss autism awareness. Look, as usual, I'm ready to jump in, and we haven't done the preliminaries. So let's start off with grabbing our phones. Here we go. I'm doing mine too. See, I just turned it on, got it upside down. This is what we do every time we come on. And so I ask you to go to your Facebook and let's share this live. And if you're on YouTube, HDK Productions, let's share this live with friends.
And let's share this live. Look on YouTube.
See, it's a interesting morning, guys. As usual, when we come on, it's always an interesting morning. So when I go to tap in on the session, of course, it comes up live and it's playing live right now. But what I'm doing is sharing it to my page, and then I'm going to share it to my friends. So I'm going to share it to my friends. I'm going to share it in my messenger to my friends because I want them to be able to enjoy this session with us. It's going to be such an amazing session on today because we have such an amazing topic and amazing guest today. So look, share it, like, share, and tag. You can like it. I'm liking it myself. I know that's corny when you like your own stuff, but hey, what do? We like our own stuff. So like it, share it, tag it, tell a friend because we are on the Lioness Den. Look, today's going to be amazing. I can't say it too many times. It's going to be amazing. Come on and join us as we go into, as I slow down some, because I'm really on 100 already, the Lioness Den. Hey, we are back. And if you haven't seen our new opener, now you have. We are stepping our game up this year. The Lioness Den is doing something different. We're trying to do something just a little bit bigger to show you guys. Look, it's not just one. There are many women as a part of the Lioness Den. And with that being said, we are here this morning with one of our greatest supporters, Miss Kenya Sullivan. Now, before I bring her in, because I am going to bring her in, before I bring her in, I want to tell you a little bit about Miss Sullivan. So Miss Sullivan is a model turned, what is it? Everything mom. Before she had her daughter, Miss Sullivan was a model. She is still currently a graphic artist. Um, she was a little bit of every woman, and now since she has had her daughter, Miss Sullivan is a full-time mom. Now, you say, why do I say full-time mom? Because her daughter has autism. So when I say full-time mom, a lot of us who are moms, we go to work, we get to come back, our kids become a little bit more self-sufficient, and they don't need us as much. But Miss Sullivan has taken on the job of being a mom, an advocate, everything, because her child has autism. And it's not the same. I'm going to tell you guys. And sometimes we don't want to say it's not the same, but it's not the same as someone who has a child who can do other things for themselves. Miss Sullivan has become her daughter's everything, and I applaud her for that. And so, without further ado, I would like to introduce to some and present to others Miss Kenya Sullivan.
Hello.
Hey, Kenya, how are you this morning?
I am bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Gotta
Amazing.
be. My grandmother used to say, "You meet the sun before the sun meets you." So we get up
Hey.
early.
Yes. And when we do this, we have to get up early no matter what, because thank you, Londa, for sharing. We have to get up early because we have to prepare for this. You just don't get up and look like this. I promise you. It takes a little bit of time for us to start look like this at 11 a.m. in the morning. Look, we doing our hair, we shaking it, and we trying to do something to the face and make sure we don't look crusty and pasty because you in sleep. So yeah, all of that, all of that. But yes, how are you this morning? I'm happy that you joined us. Look, you joined us before, but I think this time we're going to have a very in-depth conversation, more than we have in the past. I'm looking down because I'm looking for the notes that you sent me, because Miss Kenya actually is directing this session and not myself. Oh, Kenya, guess what? I forgot to do a closer. Oh, it'll work out. But
We always ready.
we always ready. We come ready. So this session, Kenya and I have been talking and working with this session for the last couple of months. And there were things that I thought I knew that I did not know. And Kenya made me aware of some new things. So we're going to discuss the things that we've been talking about. I mean, she really gave me some great information. I don't even know if she knows how much new information she gave me this time, but she did. She gave me some great. Look at your Kenya. You look like what?
Okay.
It's definitely going to be what we discussed. There are no surprises. So, this month we're talking about autism awareness because, as we all know, April is Autism Awareness Month. And so, with that, I like your shirt.
Oh, this shirt reads "Autism Mom," and it says, "Doing more research than the FBI."
Makes sense with what we have discussed. Makes sense.
Do it.
It really does. So I want to kind of dive into your story, Kenya, if that's okay.
Sure.
Because I've known you since the beginning, and we were discussing that the other day, how you knew very early on. So I'll start with Killa. Killa, we lived together when she had Killa, and Killa came in, and Killa was just the cutest baby, and I was like, oh, she's so great. And everything's cool. And Killa got about 6 months. Well, she was about 6 months, or was she 3 months, Kenya? She's about 3 to 6 months.
She was about 6 months.
Okay. And I'm playing with Killa, and I'm like, we're having a great time and everything. And Kenya goes, something ain't right. And I'm going, no, she's a baby. This is what babies do. And even when I think we went to doctor's appointments, I went to 1 or 2 with you, but I didn't go to all of them. She was meeting the markers that she was supposed to meet for her age. So I'm like, Kenya, you are kind of just being a little
First
mom.
mom jitters.
First mom jitters. Exactly. You're having the first mom jitters. And so, let's calm it down because, she's going to be fine. Everything's good. And Kenya's saying no. So, Kenya, explain to the audience what you saw in comparison to what I saw.
Okay, what I saw actually, the very first hints were she was about 3 months old, and the lack of eye contact. She would just gaze at the room, whatever room we were in, whatever the light source was. She would just really just gaze at the light source a lot. And usually, newborns usually try to look and locate mom's, sensory things are working. And she did some of that, but she was more staring directly into the light more than anything. I'm like, okay. So by 6 months, um, well, her other godmother, I told her, I said, do you think? And she's like, nah, it might not be. And we went on 3 more months, and Keela was not answering to her name. Usually, if you say the baby's name, because I'm singing to her, she's, vocalizing, but I would say her name and she would not even turn. No eye contact, no look in a direction. I said, well, maybe she's deaf. I
I
said,
remember
okay,
that.
thing for
I
me.
remember you saying that. I
Yeah,
remember
I
you
said,
saying
no
that.
interpreter. I said, well, let's just see if we can get this checked out, and took her to the pediatrician. He said, well, I don't think, I'm not sure. Just give it some more time. I'm like, give what more time? You know? And he said, well, if you really, really are concerned, let's just get her hearing checked, and we can just rule that, if that's the situation. Either way, I was teaching her sign language because I needed for her to be able to understand me, and I wanted her to be able to relay something back to me. But the main thing is to understand to the best that she could what was going on. And by 6 months, she got her hearing checked, and they were like, "No, the hearing's fine." I'm like, "It doesn't seem like, because she's not answering at all. You could be right there, and she's like in her world. She don't you whatever, And so that was the first hint. Her dad was even like, "Nah, ain't nothing wrong with her. You really think something
Yeah,
wrong with her?"
right.
He said, "She's fine." I'm like, "Yeah, okay." I'm
Well,
around her the most, so that's why it was like, come on now. And it wasn't like I was really young and didn't know. Been
right.
around plenty of kids. I had her when I was 40, so I'm like, I know some stuff. And plus, I have a sister that's 11 months younger than me. She has two daughters with autism. Out of her four kids, her last two have autism, and they're girls. So, of course, Johns Hopkins had the eyebrow raised, like, oh, really? Would you like to help us try and figure out how that happened? Of course, my sister's like, get out of here. No, you're not poking and prodding my kids. No. But me, on the other hand, I'm like, okay, well, you tell me a little something. So we got some interesting things medically when you're ready to either get to that point. We can talk about
Yes, we're gonna go there. I was gonna say to you, I remember we kept saying, but when you reach out to her, she reaches back.
that. Yeah.
So she would reach back, even though she wasn't necessarily looking right at you. Kayla would
Mm-hmm.
always reach back and come to you if you kind of like called her or whatever, and or you reached your hands out, not called her, because when you called her, she kind of didn't pay you any attention. But
Right.
if you reach your hands out, she would come.
Mm-hmm.
And
She
I think
learned.
that's why a lot of us were like, Kenya, you're being a little, you acting it's a little less than what you think. And you were like, nope, I know what's going on. I've seen this before. So that was very interesting. Now we're going to get to the doctor's parts, because you've given me how we going at this. I told you you're the director this time. I'm literally following all of what you sent me. Okay, so the first part we want to talk about is the diagnosis. When should you go to the doctor if you have an inkling or just something doesn't seem right?
The best thing to do is to go to the pediatrician first. The pediatrician can give you a referral or some information where you can go from there. And your local special education, social work, social service department, infant and toddler programs, things like that. And it really depends on the age. Usually they don't want to give too much of a diagnosis of autism until the kid's about maybe 2.5 to 3, because a lot can happen. Sometimes they can just do a quick development, and we have our own timeline, and kids are like, I'm not ready to do that yet, just give me a little more time. And so they want to give the kids some more time. But the earlier the diagnosis, the easier the transition can be for the kid when they get to school or preschool or even daycare, because some daycares won't even take your child without a diagnosis. And then of course, if they don't have qualified people to take care of the kid at the daycare, you have no daycare coverage.
Got you. So, I know sometimes when kids are mentally disabled, they go to school early. So, like most kids, they're in daycare, but like school, they'll put them in a school setting, early, a regular school. I don't want to say regular school, but they'll put them in school earlier, not like just daycare. They'll put them in. Is that something? Well, that's when I was younger, Kenya. So look, you know how old I am. I'm an old lady now, somewhat. And so don't do that. But no, so like now it's a big thing that people put their kids in daycare when they're like 6 months. Do they suggest putting your child into daycare at a younger age, when they're young, so that they can get more apt or adapted to the classroom setting, because they want to be in the classroom setting, and they may not be able to understand talking and all that. Do they suggest, and I don't want to say this and be just so politically wrong, so please excuse me if I am, because I'm asking questions, and some of the questions are questions I really don't know. But do they suggest you put? I mean, we put our kids into daycare because it prepares them, for the classroom setting, and it also makes them like, so you are like, I put Jules in daycare at 3. Why? So that by the time she got to school, she was used to sitting down. She was used to having homework. She was used to that type of stuff. Is that something that they suggest? Oh, I can't talk this morning. Suggest. I think I need water, Kenya. Is that something that's suggested by the doctors when you get this diagnosis? Like, what type of plan, or do they help you to develop a plan? I guess is what I'm asking, because I went a
Yes,
long way to ask that question.
they do. Doctors will give you the referral, and usually if you have a special needs um, resource in your city, they would usually maneuver you through, depending on the kid's age. The earlier the better. Keela did go to daycare because of a work program I was in, and they're like, you have to, but from that she went on to what they have. I think she was about maybe 2 or 3, between 2 and 3 years old. She was in the infant and toddler program, and so they have a setup. It's like a special activity for kids who probably, if they're all on the spectrum, they have behavioral issues, usually because they're not understood and they're kind of frustrated.
Right.
And then sometimes the staff is frustrated because they don't know. So the infant and toddler program helps develop um, the toddlers to be ready for preschool.
Okay.
And my cousin, when I went to Texas, was the whole reason why I even went to Texas, was because they had a preschool program that was all day.
Mm.
And they would take naps, but it was in a regular workstation kind of setting. And I wanted Keela to be comfortable with getting on the bus and coming back from school and getting into that routine, because she's going to be in school till the 12th grade. So I was like, this would be good for her. And she did really well there. Um, Coming back to Baltimore, I'm glad that I did, for my own health reasons. Excuse me, when it was time for her to go to school, she did really well. I mean, there was no problem getting on a bus, leaving me, no separation anxiety. She knew mom was going to be there, and so it definitely helped. The better the head start, the easier the transition is. Like she's about to go to high school now.
I know we're not there yet. That's like wow. Uh,
Yeah, so yeah, but it's a process you get used to. You just don't want to just throw your kid into a program. So if they're going to go to like maybe an infant and toddler program or a Head Start program, take the child to the building at least first. So it's not just an overwhelming kind of shock. Oh my God, what is this and all these people? It can be overwhelming. So that sensitivity as a parent definitely
yeah.
goes a long way.
And that process is the process you do if your kid doesn't have autism. Let's be, so you take them to the
Will help.
daycare, you get them, you go in with them, you know, you make sure that they become acclimated. They understand that you're going to be here during the day and mom's going to leave, stuff like that. So that's something that you do anyway. And one of the things you always say when we talk is making sure that there's some type of routine that you must start when they are very young. So my brother, who's usually with us during this discussion, also
Yeah.
says making sure, hi Alonzo, we know you're at a prayer breakfast. But making sure that the kid starts a routine very early.
Yes.
What is so we start routines for all kids. Let's be honest. There's a routine if your child doesn't have autism because you want them to start saying, being ready to get up. My sister has a routine with my nieces. We go to bed at 8 o'clock because we have to be up at 5 a.m. That's the routine. What type of routine did you set in place for Kayla when she was very young?
Um, Really realizing her needs of sleep. Now, I wasn't getting that much, and it was killing me, but she needed anywhere from 8 to 10 hours of sleep. And so I made a schedule according to that. As long, whatever, she had to eat and I think it's like maybe 2 hours before she would go to bed, she would have her dinner. She would be up for those 2 hours, and then it would be time to go to sleep. And I had it on the clipboard until it just became second nature for me, and it worked. And even now,
Mm-hmm.
she still gets about 8 to 9 hours every night. Um, but she's trying to hang now. She's 14, so she be trying to hang. I'm
Hey,
like, no,
you know, still a
lights off. And then
teenager, still a
sometimes,
teenager.
yeah, and then sometimes, she's like, look, I'm tired. But she has to have that physical activity. If she's just not really active, she'll just lay around like a potato, and she'll have pent up energy, and she'll just zoom through the house. You know how cats get the zoomies? She'll just run through the house. I'm like, okay, so did I miss something? What are you running for? But she needs
Right.
that outlet. She needs that
Yeah.
outlet.
Yeah. And for real, all children do. When we keep them, look, let me tell you, while we're having this conversation, this is something we didn't discuss, but I'm noticing that the similarities is that all children need these same types of routines, the same type of attention. It's just that sometimes when your kid doesn't have autism, you go, they're going to be okay. And now hearing you say it, I'm like, yeah. So my kid, if she has a day out of school, okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and she doesn't have anything to do
Mm-hmm.
because she likes cooking, she's going to
Mm-hmm.
cook everything in the house. So all day long, what her activity will be is what we got that I can make, and she's thinking of recipes that she can cook because she's not outside doing something. And again, I want to go, ma'am, are you going to eat all of this? Probably not. Which means that after a certain period, you're going to throw this away. So yes, we need right. We need to because the same way Kayla has the pent up energy because she doesn't have a way of voicing it to you necessarily, like by no, because she's talking now because she does her
Yeah, she
thing.
says a little things, but I understand when she was a toddler, she would get off the bus and the playground was right there. That's when we lived with Leslie, and the playground was right there, and we would get off the bus and go right to the playground. She would play there for like maybe 30 minutes, maybe an hour. We'd walk to the house. She'd take a nap, and she loved that. She was looking forward to coming home, having her little snack, so it worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
And each year even when we lived with my stepmom, when I came back from Texas, it was the same way. She was just used to having that playtime, and I had to put it in the schedule.
Right. Okay. So the next thing you have on here to discuss is choosing your medical doctor and your specialist.
Pray.
Okay.
With both hands lifted up, pray.
Okay.
Because sometimes some doctors will not listen. It
All
gets a
right.
little more complicated as they get older because they're getting bigger. And I've definitely understood that aspect and deal with my daughter because she just turned 14 in January. And we have an appointment with a gynecologist for the
Oh
first time
wow.
this week.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so
Kenya.
that's going to be fun because one, my daughter is a happy-go-lucky kind of girl. She's just laid back. Everything is cool. Just give her a heads up. Just don't drop it in her lap. Pretty much like her mom. But she won't ad lib much unless I do it. So if I'm like, all right, come on, let's just do this. Getting the HPV shot and all the other kind of stuff that I had. Took 6 people for Keela to get the shot. Each
Wow.
person had to hold a limb, and then the person had to give the needle. And there are some people who have issues with that as well. I'm sure there'll be comments about that. But you got to do it the best way to get that job done. And
Yeah.
she needs to be able to go because I also noticed she may be having signs of polycystic ovarian syndrome like me. I see the early stages of it, and so we need to get that taken care of. So it's just like making sure you have a doctor that really is sensitive to what goes on when it comes to development in children with special needs. And there are some, that are out here. It's just if you live in a city, they're in the rural areas more, but it's really important because the life expectancy actually for a person with autism is my age, 54.
Okay.
When the
Okay.
general average is 72, that's a big of a gap, don't you think?
Yeah.
So, we want to make
Definitely.
sure that we have the healthcare and a responsible, consistent healthcare provider as well.
Absolutely. Good morning, ladies. I see that Miss Barbara and Shamila have joined us. Thank you for joining us, ladies. Um, yes, so that's very interesting because so for my child, she doesn't have to go through the regular GYN visit because our family medical doctor
Mm-hmm.
covers that up until she gets to that age of the next step. They cover all of your GYN stuff
That's
at
that good
the
insurance.
family. Is that the good insurance?
That's the good insurance.
Oh
I got the
no,
poor people insurance, girl.
I didn't know that. Okay, yeah,
That's the
so they
good
cover
people
all
insurance.
of that. They cover all of that for us. You don't have to really go to a separate person to do it. So it's very interesting that she's having her very her first GYN visit instead of having all of it at her primary care because
I
primary care.
wish.
Oh,
I
okay,
wish.
okay. See, look, that's what I said. I said this week we talked more about this subject than before because and we've known each other forever, but we haven't gotten really deep. And usually you're on a panel, but we decided that we were going to talk about Keela specifically this time, and
Okay.
I've learned so much. So let's see, because we are already Kenya 30 minutes in, right?
Okay. All right. Am
That's
I taking too
crazy.
long?
No, no, no. That's
Oh,
me running my mouth as usual. You know how I go. All right, so I'm going to speed up a little bit. All right.
yeah. Okay.
So now our third thing to discuss, because again, Kenya, guys, she really prepared me for this talk. Our third thing that we're going to discuss is advocacy, learning how to fight. Uh, Parents, academic specialists, paperwork, and important documents. So, what is the difference? I know when it came down to Jules being in school, um, there wasn't much of a fight. She go to school, I talk to the teacher, she get whatever teacher. Um, Yeah, there was no specialist paperwork. She just go through school. The biggest thing I had to do was make sure that during the pandemic she was at the computer. I think that's when it got a little more difficult. Oh, and bullying. Bullying was big when we were in Maryland because
Yes.
kids, if they are not, a certain way and
Oh
shape, size,
yeah.
whatever, kids bully one another if you don't get the math problem and everybody else got it. So bullying was a big one. But as far as dealing with autistic and advocacy, so I know my brother, he's always on here talking about advocacy for autistic and special needs children. He's usually here, he's the expert in the subject, saying things
Yes. Yes. I
eloquently as
love
he
it.
usually does, right?
I love it.
Right. And
Yeah.
so with that being said, what is it like, because you've been parent advocate not just for Keela but for other families now at this point, other moms, you have walked them through this. What is it to have this this advocacy for your kid when they have special needs, when they have autism, and specifically, what is that like?
It is a new way of fighting with different equipment. No kid comes with a manual,
Right.
but understand a parent or a caregiver or a guardian of a person that has autism has to have an arsenal at all times. A legal aspect, because there are disability laws that some companies do not respect or abide by. You have to know them. So that's why this shirt is so true. Research more than the FBI. So you have to make sure that you know um, the resources that are available for um, for your kid. Sometimes it's it looks good on paper, it looks good on a website, but when it's actual time to have someone to advocate other than the parent, a hush goes over Jerusalem. You don't hear anything. Nobody's there because no one wants to
Mm,
deal with it. Um, Maybe they're too busy. It as your child gets older, the fanfare of it being a baby just kind of changes because they just kind of drift off. And when it comes to advocacy, it starts way before something actually happens. First day of school, kindergarten or ninth grade or college, it is always good to establish um, boundaries of what you would give them. Like with, I would say, Baltimore City Public Schools, because my daughter goes to public school. But there's a program in the public school that she, through special education and in her district, where she actually has a program that's supposed to go along with it's called an IEP. Some kids have a 504. These are forms. It's like a syllabus of things that'll help your child meet their goals. They get
okay.
them as early as 4 years old. And so it's good to be able to have that and you can gauge it. Moms cannot just let that sit in a book bag. You just can't let that be, something that the school takes care of. You have to watch it because there's you don't always have the staff. Like my daughter
Mm,
has a one-on-one, as they call them, a behavioral support person in the classroom with her
okay.
that would help her. Other than that, Keela will be jumping and running through because who's going to sit there for 50 minutes for anything, really? So she has someone there. That's a whole nother something you got to worry about. But advocacy is making sure that these people are accountable, just like they make sure the parents are accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Keela's on that bus on time every day. They have to be accountable as well, and we have to be able to stand in the gap for our kids, because especially when you have nonverbal children. The curriculum that we have right now with my daughter, I totally disagree with, because she's a visual learner.
Okay.
But if you got a whole bunch of loud music and stuff, she's like, if you don't get that away from me, I have to step in. And the school, the speech therapist called me and asked me, could I come up there on Wednesday? And I said, sure, I'll come up there and help. So you have to be that hands-on. And I know we are swarmed with other things to do. You're really, really busy, but this is an investment for your kid. And you have to see the sacrifices are worth it. Sound investment will bring a sound return.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, I mean, what you're saying is good for all parents, to be honest, because look, sometimes we have to drop everything and go to the school too. I just feel like it's to the 10th degree for you guys, only because now you got to make sure nobody is doing anything extra to my baby or with my baby because they're nonverbal.
Exactly.
And so now you got to be a little bit more vigilant to make sure, like, we all good? Because if we not, none of us are good. That's just the bottom line. If we're not all good, then none of us are good. Okay. And
There's gonna be a
so,
there's gonna be a bomb in Gilead.
right. So the IEP, I know I have some friends with kids who have had and do still have IEPs. This is basically, is this a progression plan for the child through school? Or is
Yes.
this a
It's
okay?
like with each semester they'll have these are the goals that we set for her, and by a certain time in the school year she'll have an efficacy of 70%, 80%, you know,
Okay,
you
got
know,
you.
to show the progression. Keela even goes to school during the summer, and I'm
Okay.
very picky about that. As much education as possible because she does not have a lot of idle time.
Okay.
But she gets 4 hours to herself. As you can see, it's really quiet and calm. She is having the time of her life upstairs in her Minnie Mouse shrine of a room.
I saw that the other day when you showed me. Guys, let me tell you something.
She
This
loves
chick
it.
likes Minnie Mouse. She has from the smallest to the largest Minnie Mouse I've ever seen. Okay. And she was just sitting in the middle of all of them. So she really, really likes Minnie Mouse. Minnie Mouse is her thing.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yes, but
She's still a
today
Minnie
she's
Mouse when
happy
she was,
because Minnie Mouse is with her, huh?
yeah, when we went to Disneyland, she was about 10 months old, and we had a breakfast with the animals, well, with Minnie Mouse and Mickey and all them. And they walked over, and she's sitting in the high chair. She just dropped everything and just opened her arms, and Minnie Mouse gave her a hug, and that was it.
That was
She just wanted anything that looked like she was grabbing it. I'm like, I'm gonna be broke before we get back to Baltimore fooling with this girl. So when people ask what does she want for Christmas or her birthday or something, I say Minnie Mouse, and oh, here they come with the stuff.
oh
So
yeah.
that's how that happened.
All right, we got a few more minutes, so I'm going to keep going on the list that you gave me here.
Sorry.
Financials, social security support for minors and adults, and autism waivers.
Yes.
Okay,
That's
that's the next thing
like
you have on the list here. Okay, so how
yeah,
does that work, Kenya?
the autism waiver.
The
Okay,
whole
well,
thing. So it's a process, I'm sure. So even like the social security part and then the autism waiver, how does that work?
okay, well, with the Social Security aspect, you do have to, proof of birth and your information as far because you have to get your kid's Social Security number and all that when they're young. It's best to try and have all that established. Once you get the diagnosis, is when you can get the ball rolling with Social Security and the disability. Now, with that, the disability will cover your kid until about 18, I think. And then after 18, after they're like out of high school, they have to file as an adult.
Okay.
So you have to go through another process. Even with getting her, a passport, how she looked at 10 is not how she looks now at 14. So you have to do that over again too. But uh, just making sure that you have, what was I saying? I lost the thought there.
The proper paperwork you were
Oh
talking
yeah, the
about.
paperwork. Yeah, the paperwork. Yeah. No, because it's a whole bunch. And I'm
I
like,
got you.
short time trying to fit everything in there. Yeah, the paperwork is real quick to fill out. It's not that intimidating, but you can have all that taken care of, and making sure that you have backup. If you know what I mean. You know what I mean when I say backup? Backup, like if you don't have 2 copies of everything. Let's just put it like
Okay.
that.
Okay. Got you. Got you. Because people lose
And
stuff even when you send it in.
yes, even when you
Okay.
send it in, and you have to have dates for proof. If you don't, you will have a long wait. So,
Okay.
there's a LISS program I wrote down there too, and the
Yes.
Autism Waiver. These are programs that have money that can be allotted to you to help your kid if he or she needs something extra, behavioral therapy, occupational therapy, where they can go to a program, and so the advocacy programs that are established in your area will definitely. Oh, someone just said that.
Yeah, that's Londa. Next time, Londa, I'm gonna tell you right now, and I was gonna wait till the end.
Hey,
You're gonna be on here
okay,
talking with us because you got a lot of information, girl.
yes. Is that the one with the
Thank you,
sun?
Londa.
Is that the one with the sun?
I think yes, Londa has a son. Yep.
I remember
Yep.
her. But yeah, and so you should be able to maneuver it that way with their help. But making sure you have a nice folder of all that information, because they're gonna ask. And you better have it.
She said, "Hey, y'all," and Londa said her son is 17 years old, and he.
Oh, she got a man in the house. This is a whole nother experience when you have teenagers and they're developing and their body parts are changing and cycles and all. Yeah, that's the stuff that we need to write a book or something. Make it more accessible.
All right, let's see, because I'm trying to make sure we are at 42 minutes in. We
Okay.
try to maintain 1 hour exactly or less. So we're
Amen.
42 minutes in. The No, this is not the last thing. This is next to the last thing. The next thing you have on here is, I think we talked about that already, but I'm going to go back into this. The special education and local district and integrated schools. Integrated schools is really what we wanted to talk about. The integrated school. How does the integrated look at your face before I can even get it out? How
Girl.
does the integrated school work? Because I think Keelan's been in an integrated school the whole time, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so how does integrated school work?
Well, it's not like a school that's exclusively for children with autism or special needs, which is usually a private school. Public school has a section that includes special education, which is assigned from the local public school headquarters. With headquarters, there's special education. With special education, there's a program that's for the public schools, certain public schools, and that's where they have teachers supposedly, because Baltimore's. I'm gonna just put it out there. Baltimore is not as good as it should. It is better than some, and I would say ours is bad.
Okay.
I am ready for whatever backlash that comes, because it definitely needs an upgrade of leadership and accountability. Integrated schools are only as good as the leaders that are there. And we're talking from district leaders to principals to teachers. My daughter's situation in middle school has been poor. So that's why I'm working that much harder. And when I say poor, she doesn't even have all of her teachers she's supposed to have, but there were more kids this year. Yeah.
Mm.
She had one teacher who was from out of state who's not coming back next year because he's like, no way am I going to deal with this another year. I cannot blame him. It's a lot of work for one teacher and a lot of assistants. That's not anybody's fault except for those who made that decision. And we got to hold them accountable. So integrated schools can really work, but you got to have the leadership and the accountability to make it work.
Gotcha.
And so, Londa just said, I'm telling the truth. All right, I can preach this sermon. But I mean, that's the main thing with integrated schools. It can really work because there's a fellowship that can happen with. Let me just say this: if you don't even celebrate
Mm,
the awareness month, I had to buy stuff and give it to the class so that, there's an awareness that the other kids need to know so you don't tease them. That's how bullying can stop, when you teach other children that don't have autism how to handle children that do have autism. That's the
right.
whole point of having an integrated school. But if you got them on the third floor and you got everybody else throughout the school, and they never really contact or interact with each other because you don't have enough staff for coverage, then what? Then why are they really there? Because it's still a separation it really shouldn't be. So that's my soapbox.
Let's just soapbox for integrated schools.
Yeah, oh girl.
Well,
Girl.
it's amazing though that they still do that. Let's be honest. So when I was in school, they had the DC children, which is what they used
Yeah.
to call them,
Yep.
the DC kids, and the DC kids was in one area. We were in another area, and they would almost act like they were escaping from jail when they would get out of their class unit and end up in one of our class units.
Yep.
Right? So it
Yep.
was like, let's hurry up and get them back to their class unit because they're not supposed to be with the rest of the kids, which
Yep.
gave the other kids a bad sense of how to live in the same community with them.
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
now we're not really dealing with them because we put them like we locked them away, more or
Yes.
less. You
Yes.
know that you don't wander into that part of the school,
Yes.
basically. So
Unless you are at Keela's school, where all of the school knows her, because when she has to go to the bathroom, unless her aide is there with her, she will go to the teacher's bathroom.
yes, Kayla,
She will
yes.
run down the hall and go,
She privacy.
I'm going to go to where it's better. I'll go to the
I
better
need
bathroom.
privacy. I need the good bathroom. You guys can go in that smelly one.
Right. And the
Basically.
other kids are like, how does she get to go? You got to catch her. Just got to catch her.
He'll say y'all get a smelly bathroom. Teachers usually have a clean bathroom. I'm just gonna go in there.
Yes.
Y'all have fun in the other one.
Yes. But all the other kids, they know her because she is just like that vanguard. I told you about how she turned the lights out in the cafeteria and everybody thought it was a blackout.
Well, Kayla likes to turn off the lights when something happens that she doesn't like. Londa said, I push my school leaders to submerge my child with those that didn't have the diagnosis. Both need
Exactly.
each other. Exactly, Londa.
Yep.
Exactly. Because that's the thing. We do need, our society now, it's more prevalent for us to have autistic children. Back
Yes.
in the day, we didn't know.
1 in 36.
Someone undiagnosed, they were just considered as bad behavior, and then the others were really more or less separated outside of our community.
Yeah, putting asylums and boarding
Yeah,
schools. Yeah.
institutions. And so now
Mhm.
that we have parents who are really there keeping their kids and trying to immerse them in society, we definitely need the help of our school leaders and our government officials. Let's just be honest; they have to work hand in hand for it to work for us.
Exactly.
All right, you have a good one on here that
I do.
I want to hear a lot more about. Yeah, they're all good, but this is a real good one I'm about to say. You
Okay.
you wrote this, Kenya. I'm just reading it back to you.
It's my life, girl.
So the next one says life insurances, life insurance for you and your child, and having a will is really important. Tell us. I know why it's important, regularly, but how does it work for you? Because it has to be more important for you. Because
It's
I don't want to talk over you, but tell us because I was getting ready to say something else, but you can.
it's really important, specifically for me. And I'm not the only mom that has these kind of situations. When you are a full time mom, a lot of times you will neglect yourself. And you'll look around, as my grandmother would say, you look like homemade sin.
Not homemade son.
And because you're just doing so much, and you just lose a sense of you, and you're not taking care of you. I had no idea when I had Keela that I had eclampsia, and they were keeping me from having a stroke. And as a
Wow.
result of that, I ended up with epilepsy
Yes.
and congestive heart failure, and I didn't know.
Oh wow.
I had to go back to the hospital. After I had to go back to the
I
hospital
remember.
and all that. And I'm like, I didn't know. I didn't know I even had epilepsy until she was 2, after
Right.
she,
I
had
remember.
her diagnosis. And the epilepsy wasn't the convulsing in the floor kind. It was just pass out, drop wherever I am. I'm too big to be falling. So I'm glad I know. I'm still taking the medicine. Haven't had a seizure in about 7
Oh
years.
God. Only
But
you, Kenya, will come on and say
thank
I'm
you.
too big to be falling. Go ahead, girl.
Too big to be falling. There's just too much gravity against me. Too much. But it's really it's important because now Keela's father, as you know, he died when he was 34. That was about
Yes.
7 years ago, of congestive heart failure. And so I'm all she has in a lot of ways. No grandparents. Both parents
Right.
died before they were 50 of cancer, so she has no grandparents on this side.
Right.
But she's been blessed with people who step right in, and they have been a blessing. But the insurance is essential because you never know what your situation. I might can only blink one day or something, and someone's going to need to be able to fill in the gap. So I have to have the information set up for her and for my things, my belongings. What happens to any money that is she inherits through her father? So I had to do the register of wills for all of my belongings, and then for my sister, my younger sister, who's 34. She's a youngest sister. I have another sister that's 53. But my baby sister and her husband are the ones that would be looking over for her should something happen to me. And I had to have that in writing, or else she would be awarded over to the state to put her away somewhere.
Wow.
That's how that would go. Because there's really nobody else in the family that would step up to the plate and really be at the commitment of taking care of her. Should my sister and her husband not be able to do it, then she would go to her family in Delaware, who she doesn't really see, but I'll have everything laid out. And that's her father's side of the family, because everybody else in my family is out of Maryland. So
Gotcha.
making sure you have insurance, because kids with autism, I can honestly say, you can never really know. Children with autism, unless they're introduced to swimming early, can drown a lot faster.
Okay.
And that's bad. Sometimes if they're frustrated or they're doing something with string, they can hang themselves. If they have mini blinds, because we don't have any mini blinds in the house. She's not into that, but you never know. Certain drawstrings, she could choke herself. So asphyxiation, yeah, asphyxiation, and um, what's the other one? Suffocation. There it is. Suffocation. Pillows, toys, stuff like that. Chemicals from cleaners can give them bad reactions. So you have to really proof your house. But the insurance aspect would definitely help cover that should something happen. Should something
Okay.
happen.
And let me put a side note there. We all should have insurance for ourselves and our children. Because
Yeah.
even if your kid does not have autism, you have to be prepared if something happens. A lot of times we see the GoFundMe when someone passes, and it's because we're not properly prepared for what could possibly happen.
Yeah.
And so just a side note, as my one of my teachers says, a side note from your Uncle John or Uncle somebody, he says all the time. But the side note is, if you don't have it, get some insurance, look into it, have a
Yeah.
will, because it's very important. Because if you don't, in my field, they say if it's not written down, it didn't happen. Well, if you don't have a will, you didn't want anything for your kid. Think about that as you listen and move forward. If you don't write it down, you didn't want anything for them, so you left them to the mercy of whoever else is left here.
Yep.
Kenya, we are ending soon, but we have one last thing to discuss. And that one last thing, because this one last thing you gave me was socialization, allowing your loved ones to build relationships. with allowing your loved ones to build relationships with your child and with other people. I mean, let your child build relationships. I think this is what you're saying. You said allow the loved ones, but I think you're talking about allowing the child to build relationships with other people. Is that correct? Did I say that right?
It's a combination of both because allowing the she said keep doing this work, allowing your child to be able to go to different households in your family that's safe, that they understand, because just like the school has integration, the family needs an integration as well. If not, then there's complete isolation. No one
Right.
wants you to come over their house because they want to play their music loud. You may have people that smoke weed and they got the weed cloud going through. You know, certain environments are just not good. Like, I physically cannot go to the church I love and enjoy because the sound is killing my child. She can't do it. Not even go to children's church where it's quieter. No. So I have to watch service, live stream. But that's the sacrifice you make when,
Yeah. It's a part
amen.
of being a parent.
Portable. God is portable. So, but making those accommodations. So, like going to the supermarket or going to the doctor, that's another, she has to be able to adjust to certain environments. As a mom, you got to always have a plan B. Anytime we leave the house, it's like planning for a wedding. I have to make sure I have a little bit of everything because you never know.
Maybe for a wedding.
Yeah. So hopefully I ain't talk too much. I try to make that real
No,
quick.
this Kenya, this was a great session. Usually we do a panel for autism awareness. I
Mm-hmm.
think we were able to cover more topics this time,
Okay.
with just us. To be honest with you, with just us talking.
So it
Um,
was okay. I did okay with the
you
outline.
did excellent. Thank you so much. This has been such a rewarding session. Let me see. Londa has one more comment here.
Okay.
Yes, much sacrifice and adjustments, but it is worth it.
Yeah.
Moms,
Yeah.
y'all are super moms. Thank you, Londa. Thank you,
The
Londa.
Keela
She said
can't
excellent
always
job.
she can't always say it, but Keela will come down and just kiss me on the forehead, and that's like her way of
Yeah,
saying, you all right.
yeah.
You did that thing. So
Look, I take my head off to you, Kenya. I have one. I always say I take my head off to moms who have more than one, but I definitely take my head off to you because if you remember, my favorite Keela story is when I was talking to Keela, and in the middle of me talking, Keela starts turning the lights off. And at first, I didn't. First, I was like, she keep turning off the lights. Then I began to understand Keela wanted me to shut up.
yes.
And so every time I said something that she didn't want to hear, Keela would turn off the lights. And so it was quite interesting to me that she would turn off the lights. But then when I began to understand why she was turning off the lights, then we had a different conversation. Like, you better not touch them lights no more.
Right, yeah. Don't touch the
You better
lights.
not
And
touch the
she was
lights no
like,
more,
okay,
Keela.
right.
Do
Don't
not
touch the
touch
lights.
the lights. And then my other favorite story of Keila, she was about 3 or 4, if you remember. And I
That's the
came out,
bathtub.
I was walking down the hall, and she's standing on
The
the
sink.
the bathroom sink in the mirror
Yes.
looking at herself.
She was sitting on the edge of the sink with her feet inside the tub of the sink, facing the mirror like this.
Yes, because she was just admiring how beautiful she was. And so, guys, I say all that to say this. Let's stop separating our kids because they all need each other. Kayla and my daughter
Yes.
played very young. Kenya always said they were the first friends,
Yep.
but it taught my daughter a sensitivity for kids who had disabilities. So Bug is
Yeah.
always, people always tell me how she's very helpful and everything. And it's because at a very young age, Kenya, when I was working, was babysitting her at one point,
Mm-hmm.
and she was
Mm-hmm.
playing with Kayla. We have to make sure that our society understands that we have every type of person in the society, and every
Yes.
person has a place. This is
Yes.
Autism Awareness Month, guys. If you have family members or your kids are in school with, hey, do something to show that we care and that we love everyone. this again, Autism Awareness Month. Thank you, Kenya, so much. Again, great information. Everybody is like on here. What is this? So they will tell you the truth real quick.
Yes.
Londa,
Authentic.
Kayla
Authentic.
is she one who's gonna tell you here?
During the pandemic,
Let you know.
Keela would take the X, you know, the X in the corner of your screen, while her teacher, if her teacher was taking too long, she would look at me and go, X, please. I'm like,
See?
Keela. So if I leave the room, she would just click.
See,
She
I'm
was
telling you,
brilliant.
it is simply amazing. Look,
Authentic.
thank you everyone for joining us on the
Yes.
Lioness Den. We will see you next time, next month here for Mother's Day. Our host, I'm crossing my fingers. She said, yes. I hope you're watching, Tracy. Our host will be Miss Tracy Carr next month for Mother's Day, and she will be
Okay.
doing the Mother's Day session. Thank you again, Kenya. Thank you, everybody, for joining us once again on the Lioness Den. You have a blessed day, okay?